So here's a reminder of where we left off on the code window. We had made one main code for one of the high leverage teaching practices of explaining core content, and below it there are 5 main ways that a teacher might explain something. And remember, we have each of these smaller codes activating the main code because the teacher might bounce back and forth between these different things. And then underneath, we have text labels that are part of this chain to activate the main code because we'd want to count the length of the instances for each of these minor codes, and we'd want to apply a label into the main code so that we could count how many times inside this main code they used which strategy. So that is where we left off. Now I want to talk a little bit about the operational definitions and hierarchy and how we're going to get some of these codes to turn off. So let's start with the hierarchy. Right now there's 5 different practices, and you can see that some of them, they might overlap a little bit when it comes to an operational definition. Like a demonstration might also involve some oral descriptions or using an example. So I think we're going to turn this into a hierarchy and just assume that if you select one of the highest levels on the hierarchy, that it might include some of the other levels. So to do that, we're going to move around our buttons. And remember, these are each like double buttons. So I can't just click and drag, or I'm only going to drag the top one. So what I'm going to do is actually kind of click and drag around it, and this will select both to move these around. And I think the most basic level of explaining is the oral description. So I'm going to move this first. Okay. Then you might add an example, which would probably also include an oral description. And remember, our activation links kind of come along with us, so it makes it really easy to rearrange them. Then they might use an analogy as an expansion on that example. It might be more than just auditory, so a teacher might add a visual. And finally, there might be a kinesthetic part of it that could include any of these other things, and that would be the demonstration. This is what I have so far. This might change as I go along. And remember, these are just things that the teacher is doing. This has nothing to do with actually having the students practice something or teach something. This is just how the teacher explains something in the core content. So here's the hierarchy for now, and all of those links remain. But I want you to look quickly at what happens when I try to code with this. So clicking the code mode, I click one, and it does exactly what we wanted it to do. We see oral description turn on, and it turns on the explaining core content. But now if I go to switch, oral description stayed on along with the visuals. That's something that we don't necessarily want, and now I have to actually go ahead and turn each of them off separately. I'd like to see that, I'm going to go back to edit mode, I'd like to see that only one of these can be on at the time. The teacher's going to bounce back and forth between these different strategies. And again, because it's a hierarchy, some of the lower ones might include some of the other ones, but this way there's only one thing going on at a time. So to do that, I'm going to use the exclusive link, which happens when you hit Control and Command. And you can see that purple line popped up. So if I hold Control and Command, I can drag between these 5 things. So now when I move them over, you can see they're all linked with these purple links. Okay, those are called exclusive links, which means only one can be on at a time. So I'm going to reverse that, and here they all are. Now when I go to code, watch what happens. I click one, click another one, and it automatically turns off the other one that was on. But this explaining core content remains on because we haven't turned it off yet. So we're part of the way there. Now I need to find a way to turn them off. And if I just click explaining core content, it only turns that one off. I'd have to turn off the last one by itself. So to fix that, we're just going to make a simple off button. So I'm going to drag a new button down here, and I'm just going to call it off. I might change what it's called later. And I'm going to just turn it red, just so I know what it is. And it's actually only, it's not a code, and it's not a label. It's just a simple action button that's going to do something for me. So here's my action button. And I'm just going to put it at the bottom for now. I'll make it, I guess, the same size as these other ones. I will probably reorganize and make this look nicer later. Right now, this T shape is not the best, but just so you can see what's happening. Here's my off button. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create deactivation links from the off button to all of the other codes that might be running. We don't know which ones are going to be left on. So by holding Control and Shift, you can see the red arrow comes up when I drag between. So I'm going to make one arrow from each. There we go. 4, 5. Okay, so now I should have, if I pull the off, you can see that it has, sometimes it's easier to do it off to the side so you can actually see. It has a deactivation link to each of these codes sitting up here. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there should be 6 altogether. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, 6 things. So there's the off button. Let's take a look now and see what that does in code mode. So here's code mode. Maybe the teacher started with a description, moved to an example, provided a visual, demonstration, and then they finished the explanation. I click off, and it turned everything off. So now if I go over here, we can see that on my timeline. You can see all those things popped up, and all of them ended. So that's where we're going to leave off for today. I'm going to start adding a couple of other examples of the teaching practices, and we're going to talk about maybe whether their hierarchy would be the same or different, and how the links will work for those as well.